There's a story we've all been sold. You walk into a weekend seminar or open the right book, and somewhere in the middle of it, something clicks. A wave of euphoria, an epiphany. And you walk out the door a completely different person, never the same again. It's a beautiful story. It's also, mostly, a myth. But here's the strange part. Sudden, total, overnight transformation is real. People do change their entire lives in the span of a day, sometimes in a single moment. Psychologists have studied it, named it, and confirmed the changes are real and that they last. The catch is that the way it happens is almost nothing like the story we've been sold. If most people understood what it actually takes, they'd never sign up for it. So today, let's talk about the psychology of people who changed their life overnight. What really happens when someone's entire world reorganizes at once, why it works, and why, as much as we all want it, it's almost impossible to make it happen on purpose. Let's start with the two speeds of change. There's the slow way, the one you already know. You spot the habits working against you, build new routines, and repeat them month after month until, slowly, you become someone a little different. It works, it's reliable. And almost nobody gets excited about it, because nobody wants to hear that the answer is 18 months of patiently chiseling away at yourself. And then there's the fast way, the overnight way, the one everybody actually wants. And here's the first hard truth. It almost always requires something to break, a collapse. A moment where everything you thought you knew about yourself and what matters comes crashing down at once. It is not a celebration. It's much closer to an earthquake. Consider a young man, 19 years old. By his own description, he was drifting, lazy, lost, depressed a lot of the time. He wanted to be a musician, but didn't have the discipline to chase it, and he was about to drop out of music school with no idea what came next. He had an older friend, a charismatic big brother type, who could walk into any room and make friends instantly. And one hot July, that friend invited him to a lake party. It was a good day. Music, sun, people jumping off a small cliff into the water below. At some point, the young man wandered off for a while. When he came back, the whole party had stopped. Police cars, ambulances, people crying everywhere, no one speaking. He went looking for his friend and couldn't find him. And slowly, a horrible realization crept in. His friend had jumped from that cliff. His legs had cramped, he couldn't swim well, and by the time anyone understood, it was too late. His friend was gone. And in that single moment, the young man's entire life shattered. Until then, he'd never really confronted his own mortality, never sat with the fact that his time was limited and he was wasting it. Now he couldn't escape it. The thought underneath everything was, that could have been me. He spent the next months questioning everything he'd been doing. And then he changed. Not slowly, almost immediately. He quit the drugs, signed up for serious classes, started getting real grades, set ambitious goals for the first time in his life. One tragic afternoon became the clean line dividing his life into a before and an after. That's the fast way to change. And notice what it cost. Notice that no one in their right mind would choose it. That's the paradox at the center of this whole topic. The change people crave the most tends to arrive through the door people fear the most. Now, this isn't just a collection of dramatic stories. There's real psychology here, going back more than a century. The first person to take sudden transformation seriously as a subject of study was William James, often called the father of American psychology. And it's no accident that he studied it, because he lived it. James came from a family of extraordinary high achievers, and for the first 30 years of his life, he felt like the family failure. He tried to be a painter. It didn't work out. His father pushed him into Harvard Medical School, but medicine made him squeamish. Desperate for meaning, he joined an expedition deep into the Amazon, where he contracted smallpox and nearly died. By the time he made it home, he was depressed to the point of being suicidal, writing in his journal about ending his own life. And then, in that same journal, he made himself a deal. For 1 year, he would take complete responsibility for his life and pour everything he had into making it better. And if, at the end of that year, nothing had improved, he'd give himself permission to be done. And something in that entry cracked him open. For the first time, he wasn't living for his brilliant family or his father's expectations. He gave himself permission to own his own decisions, to build something for himself. He later pointed to that exact moment as the pivot point of his life. He went on to become one of the most influential thinkers in history, founding the school of thought called pragmatism, the idea that you should adopt the beliefs most genuinely useful to you. And because he'd lived through that lightning bolt moment and found nothing in the science that explained it, he studied it himself. He spent years meeting people who'd had sudden transformations, and in 1901 gave a series of lectures that became one of his most famous books, The Varieties of Religious Experience. In it, James split people into two rough groups: the healthy-minded, who changed slowly and deliberately, adjusting bit by bit, and a group he gave the dramatic name of the sick souls, people who suffered intensely and, only under the unbearable pressure of that suffering, would crack wide open and transform almost overnight. And for many of them, that crack-open moment came dressed as a spiritual or religious experience. And then, remarkably, this whole line of research went quiet for nearly 100 years. It wasn't picked back up until the 1990s by a researcher named William Miller. He did something simple. He put an ad in the newspaper asking anyone who'd had a sudden, positive, life-changing transformation to come talk to him. 55 people responded, former addicts who woke up one day free of their addiction, people who'd been severely depressed and then, seemingly overnight, turned everything around. And when Miller studied their stories, he found the same fingerprints again and again. The change was sudden and unexpected, often unfolding in minutes, hours, or days. It was profound and total, as if their entire inner world had reorganized at once. It was enduring, not fading the way our usual bursts of motivation do, and they all described it as something that happened to them, externally driven, like they weren't the ones in control. Miller gave this phenomenon a name: quantum change, a sudden, lasting, all-at-once leap into a new self, and it came in two flavors. Mystical quantum change, the kind that feels spiritual, sometimes involving a sense of light, wind, or a transcendent presence, and insightful quantum change, where there's nothing otherworldly at all, just something in the mind clicking. A person suddenly sees, with total clarity, that the way they'd been living was completely wrong, and that they have to change everything. And here's the part that makes it hard to dismiss. 10 years later, Miller tracked down 30 of those original people and interviewed them again. Everyone said the same thing. It was still the most important thing that had ever happened to them, and the change was still holding, all those years later. There's a related idea from the psychologist Kazimierz Dabrowski, who worked in Eastern Europe, cut off from Western psychology. He called his theory positive disintegration, and it means what it says. Sometimes the falling apart of who you are is not a breakdown, but a breakthrough. He studied survivors of war and the Holocaust, many of whom said, years later, that as horrific as it was, it had also changed them for the better, destroying their old identity so completely they could rebuild into someone healthier and more whole. Disintegration, then new awareness, then reconsolidation. We should be honest about the limits. Almost all of this research is retrospective, and there's survivor bias, since the people who transformed are the ones eager to tell the story. It's hard to study, but by every indication, it's far more common than we admit. So let's get to the real question. When someone changes overnight, what is actually collapsing? And the answer, it turns out, is values. Because here's what Miller found. Before their transformation, people tended to rank things like wealth, achievement, adventure, and being respected at the top of their list. After the change, almost everyone converged on a completely different set: inner peace, family, personal meaning, a sense of spirituality. Overnight, sometimes in minutes, their entire hierarchy of what mattered had been rewritten. And that's the key. Values are the deepest layer of who you are. They quietly decide which behaviors you prioritize, which goals you chase, what you're even motivated to do. They shape your emotions. Two people live through the same event, one thrilled and one devastated, purely because they value different things. Your identity, your beliefs, your sense of self, all of it is built on top of your values, like a house on a foundation. So if something shakes that foundation hard enough, everything built on it comes down too. That's why the change feels so total. It isn't one habit changing, it's the ground itself shifting, and every structure on it moving at once. So what has the power to collapse something that deep? Broadly, there seem to be three doorways. The first is sudden trauma, a shocking loss, like the young man at the lake. This connects to what researchers call post-traumatic growth. We've all heard of post-traumatic stress, but growth after trauma is actually more common. Many people come out the other side of something terrible, feeling stronger, clearer, and far more certain about what truly matters. The second doorway is hitting rock bottom, the slower version. It's watching your decisions, relationships, and ambitions fail over and over until the pain is so total that you're finally willing to throw everything out and start from nothing. This is the territory of addiction and recovery, where people describe having to lose absolutely everything before they can rebuild. And the third doorway is the mystical experience, the ego-dissolving kind, whether through a spontaneous spiritual event, deep meditation, or psychedelics. Your usual stories about who you are loosen and come apart, creating an opening where something new can be built. And it doesn't have to be enormous. Consider a man whose mother had a serious health scare, a week in the hospital. He'd always said he valued family, but he'd quietly carried years of small resentments toward his parents, the way many of us do. After that week, facing the real possibility of losing her, those resentments simply dissolved, reshuffling his beliefs and behavior in days. A minor quantum change, maybe, but the same machinery underneath. Notice the thread connecting all of these: pain, and that's no coincidence. The evolutionary role of pain is to make you change your behavior. Pleasure says, "This is working, stay here." Pain screams the opposite. "This isn't working, do something different." So it follows, almost cruelly, that the most intense change tends to require the most intense pain. And underneath all these different doorways, trauma, rock bottom, mystical collapse, there's one sequence that seems to run through every single one. Step 1. Your old way of operating fails. The strategies that used to work stop working, and the result is suffering. Your goals aren't landing. Things you believed turn out not to be true. Relationships you thought were solid turn out not to be. Step 2. That failure triggers a crisis of meaning. You look at the wreckage and think, how could I have been this wrong? Was any of it real? Does any of it mean anything? Researchers call this an existential vacuum, an emptiness where your understanding of yourself used to be. Step 3. Because a vacuum always gets filled, you begin to reconstruct, reaching for new values, a new identity, a new way of being. And this part isn't blissful either. It's uncertain and awkward, like being a teenager again, trying on a version of yourself you've never actually lived as, unsure if it fits. And step 4. Eventually it all clicks into place at once. New beliefs, values, relationships, and behaviors slotting together. Because these things don't exist in isolation, they exist in a web. And once a core value locks in, it becomes a lens. Come out of the fire deciding that family matters most, and suddenly every decision, every behavior, every belief organizes itself around that one truth. Which leads to the question you're probably already asking. If we can describe the steps this clearly, why can't we just do it on purpose? And here is the deepest, strangest truth of all. The part of you that most needs to change is the exact same part most determined to stay the same. You can't simply decide to collapse your own identity, because your identity's entire job is to protect its own coherence, to say, this is who I am, and I'm not going anywhere. The moment you try to dismantle it on purpose, it pushes back, because the thing you'd use to tear it down is itself. It's a dog chasing its own tail. That's why the closest tools we have only get us so far. Motivational interviewing shows people the gap between what they say they value and how they behave, but it's slow. Meditation can take you there, but often over years or decades. And psychedelics may be the closest shortcut, but they're unreliable, usually require skilled guidance and careful work before and after, and on their own, change far less than people think. Because here's the trap, it's incredibly easy to confuse the feeling of change with actual change. People have a dramatic experience and come out convinced they're a whole new person, when really, they're the same person with a few new things to say. It happens with psychedelics, books, and seminars. Someone reads something, gets a jolt of excitement, declares it changed their life, then keeps doing exactly what they always did. The story feels good, so we believe it, whether or not anything changed. Take Roland Griffiths, a leading scientist studying psychedelics, who ran structured sessions with terminal cancer patients facing end-of-life anxiety and found genuine, lasting shifts that held up later. But notice the conditions: a real crisis, a skilled guide, careful preparation, and honest work afterward. And interestingly, one of the best predictors of a powerful transformative experience is low expectations going in. It works not for those chasing enlightenment as a hobby, but for those who've run out of options, already close to bottom, trying one last thing thinking, I have nothing to lose. Which suggests these breakthroughs don't come out of nowhere. Underneath the sudden moment, there's usually a long, quiet build-up of pressure, until one day, everything reaches its breaking point at once. So where does all of this leave us? Here's what I keep coming back to. You cannot force the lightning bolt, and you wouldn't want to summon the storm it takes to create one. The overnight transformations we romanticize are almost always born from loss, collapse, or the kind of pain no sane person would wish for. But there's something quietly hopeful here too, because it means that when your life does crack open, when everything you built starts to fall, that moment is not only destruction, it's also an opening, the rare, brutal chance to rebuild yourself around what actually matters. That is what post-traumatic growth really is. Not the absence of pain, but meaning built from it. And you don't have to wait for catastrophe to use the same machinery. Every smaller disintegration, a loss, a scare, a failure, a relationship ending, is a chance to ask the question that usually only tragedy forces on us. What do I actually value, and am I living like it? You can sit with that now, on your own terms, instead of waiting for life to ask it for you. You are never going to think your way into becoming a new person overnight, but you can start, today, to become one on purpose. There's one last piece to this that we haven't touched, and it might be the most important of all. Change always has a cost. There is always something you have to give up to become someone new, and a price you have to be willing to keep paying to stay that way. And the reason so many people never truly change isn't that they don't want to, it's that they want the new life without giving up the old one. So next time, here at Deep Ravines Psychology Lab, we're going to sit with that uncomfortable, essential question. What is the real price of change, and how do you know if you're actually willing to pay it? If you've ever wondered why change never seems to stick, that one is for you. Until then, take care of your mind.